Have you ever woken up thinking, I feel fine, so I must be fine? It's a comforting thought. But for many older adults, that sense of security can be misleading. We all know life is unpredictable, but sometimes it's the quiet, ordinary mornings that hide the greatest risks. Today, I want to share with you the story of a man I'll call Mr. Ann. He was 71 years old, living in a small seaside town. Everyone who knew him said the same thing. He's strong, he's active, and he's healthy. Every morning, he followed the same routine: a quick cup of tea, a brisk walk to the garden, and then hours of tending to his plants under the sun. But one day, just after sunrise, something happened that no one expected. He collapsed by the old mango tree he'd planted decades earlier. By the time his neighbor found him, it was too late. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the sadness of losing someone, it's the lessons hidden in those final hours. Mr. Ann didn't have a chronic illness. He didn't smoke or drink. His downfall was something far more subtle, the accumulation of small, everyday habits that seemed harmless, until they weren't. In this video, I want to walk you through the unexpected truths we can learn from Mr. Ann's last day, the choices we make in the quiet moments that can protect or endanger our health, especially after 60. We're going to explore the habits that seem harmless but can silently shorten your life. And more importantly, I'll share what you can do differently starting tomorrow morning. Let's begin with the first truth, one that surprises a lot of people. The morning is both the most beautiful and the most dangerous time of day for seniors. You might feel fresh, alert, and ready to start the day, but your body is still waking up. After a night's rest, your blood pressure rises, your heart works a little harder, and your circulation needs time to adjust. If you jump straight into heavy work, lifting pots, pulling weeds, rushing upstairs, you're forcing your body into overdrive at a moment when it's most vulnerable. Mr. N made that mistake without realizing it. That morning, before eating anything, he carried 2 heavy watering cans back and forth across his garden. For a younger person, this might just cause a little fatigue. But for him, the combination of an empty stomach, dehydration from the night, and sudden exertion was like a perfect storm for disaster. The truth is, your body in the morning is like an engine that's been sitting all night in the cold. You don't slam the accelerator the second you turn the key. You warm it up slowly. For us, that means easing into the day with a gentle routine. Drink a glass of water, stretch your body, maybe take a short stroll before doing anything physically demanding. Even something as simple as eating half a banana or a slice of toast before work in the garden can give your body the fuel it needs to stabilize blood sugar and keep your heart from straining. I know some of you might say, but I've done it this way for years and I'm fine. The thing is, health risks aren't always immediate. Sometimes the damage builds quietly over time until one day the body says, enough. The second truth is about how we transition from rest to activity. When Mr. N woke up that morning, he swung his legs out of bed and stood up almost instantly. He felt a bit dizzy, but brushed it off. That tiny moment, just a few seconds, might have been the warning his body was giving him. Here's the reality. As we age, the systems that regulate our blood pressure and balance take a little longer to respond. Standing up too quickly can cause a sharp drop in blood pressure, something called orthostatic hypotension. It's a fancy term, but what it really means is your brain isn't getting enough blood for a moment, which can make you lightheaded, confused, or even cause you to faint. The fix? Slow it down. When you wake up, take 30 to 60 seconds to just lie there and stretch. Wiggle your toes, roll your shoulders, take a few deep breaths. Then sit up slowly, let your feet touch the floor, and pause. It's a small act of patience, but it can prevent a fall, an injury, or worse. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from seniors who brushed off dizziness as just part of getting older until it led to a fall that changed their life. The truth is, you can prevent many of these incidents by simply giving your body the grace to wake up at its own pace. The third truth is something very few people talk about openly: bathroom strain. I know it's not the most glamorous topic, but trust me, it's important. Straining during a bowel movement, especially in the morning, can put sudden, intense pressure on your heart and blood vessels. For someone with hidden heart issues or weak arteries, this can trigger a heart attack or stroke without warning. Mr. On, according to his wife, had been struggling with mild constipation for weeks. That morning, before he went to the garden, he spent several minutes in the bathroom straining. It may have been one of the stressors that tipped his body over the edge. The good news, this is one of the easiest risks to manage. Stay hydrated, eat plenty of fiber from vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, and keep your body moving with light daily exercise. If needed, adjust your posture in the bathroom. Elevating your feet slightly can make things easier and less stressful on your system. It might feel like a small change, but when it comes to your health, small changes stack up. They either work for you or against you. I'm sharing Mr. Ann's story not to frighten you, but to remind you that life after 60 isn't about avoiding all risks. It's about being aware of them and making choices that tip the odds in your favor. The little habits that seem harmless can either be silent protectors or silent dangers. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, remember, give your body time to wake up. Fuel it before you push it. And never ignore the small signs it's giving you. Because sometimes the difference between an ordinary day and a final day lies in the choices we make in the first hour after we wake. If you're finding these lessons valuable so far, let me know in the comments by writing the number 1. It's a simple way to say, I'm here, I'm learning, and I'm taking this seriously. And if you haven't already, tap that like button so this message can reach more people who might need to hear it. Some of the most dangerous things aren't loud or dramatic. They hide in pill bottles, quiet kitchens, and dim hallways. They creep into a life gently, like dust settling on a shelf, and before you know it, they've built up into something that can topple everything. In the middle of Mr. Ann's week, the days between cheerful chores and that final morning, 3 of those quiet dangers were working against him. The way medicines were managed, the slow drift toward isolation, and the small hazards around the house that make a single misstep catastrophic. Let's start with medicines. It's so common for older adults to be on several different prescriptions, plus an occasional over-the-counter painkiller or supplement. Each one on its own might be fine, but together they can interact in ways that leave a person dizzy, confused, or dangerously off balance. Mr. Ain kept his pills in different containers on the kitchen counter, sometimes taking an extra pill if he forgot the night before. He mixed prescription pain relief with herbal supplements and had a tendency to skip the pharmacist's advice about timing with food. None of it felt dramatic. To him, it felt like small, common-sense fixes. To his body, though, it meant unpredictable blood pressure swings, a foggy head some afternoons, and a heart that didn't always respond the way it once had. There are gentle, practical steps that make a big difference here. Keep a single clear list of every medicine, vitamin, and supplement you take, the kind you fold into your wallet or tape to the fridge. Bring that list to every appointment and ask your doctor or pharmacist to review it regularly for interactions. Use a simple pill organizer marked by day and time so you don't double up. If a medication says to take it with food, make that a habit rather than an option. If it causes dizziness, tell your clinician. There may be alternatives or timing tricks to reduce side effects. And one small habit I always encourage, pick a single pharmacy. When all your prescriptions are filled in one place, pharmacists can more easily spot risky combinations and call them out before trouble starts. Next, loneliness. It sneaks in slowly. A missed coffee with a friend becomes 2 missed coffees, which becomes a week of eating alone and fewer conversations. Mr. N loved people, but lately he let invitations slide, thinking he was saving energy. What he didn't realize was how much that quiet withdrawal eroded resilience. Social connection is not fluff, it's a kind of health maintenance. It keeps the mind sharp, eases stress, encourages appetite and movement, and gives other people a chance to notice when something is off. Reversing that drift doesn't require big events. It starts with small, reliable contact. Schedule a regular phone call with a neighbor or a weekly walk with a friend. If getting out feels hard, invite someone for tea. A short visit can change the tone of an entire week. Community centers, church groups, or a simple hobby class can reintroduce routine and purpose. And technology can help. Video calls are clumsy at first, but can become lifelines for people who have mobility limits. The important thing is to keep bridges open. Let neighbors and family know if you'd like an extra check-in. Community is also a safety net. People who care will notice weight loss, odd bruises, or forgotten medications before they become emergencies. Finally, the home itself. It sounds basic, but cluttered floors, loose rugs, poor lighting, and slippery shoes are behind so many serious falls. In the quiet of the morning, when your balance is still finding its feet, these hazards become treacherous. Mr. Ann loved moving around his house with the practiced ease of decades, but a throw rug that shifted underfoot and a dim hallway at dawn were the kind of trivial things that can turn a steady body into an injured one. Making the home safer doesn't have to mean big renovations. Keep pathways clear, move frequently used items to waist height so bending and reaching aren't a daily strain, and replace loose rugs with non-slip mats or remove them entirely. Nightlights in hallways and bathrooms reduce disorientation during early morning trips. Choose shoes with good grip and stable soles for inside use. Slippers with thin, smooth bottoms are surprisingly risky. For bathrooms, simple grab bars and a shower chair reduce the need to rely on reflexes that may be slower than they used to be. Vision and hearing checks are part of this. If you're compensating for poor sight or muffled footsteps, you're more likely to misjudge a step or miss a warning sound. And if balance has become a worry, a physical therapist can teach small, effective exercises to strengthen ankles and hips and improve steadiness. None of these suggestions is dramatic, and that's exactly the point. Health in later life is often won or lost in 1,000 small choices. A list kept in a wallet, a weekly coffee accepted, a hallway cleared. They don't feel urgent in the moment, which is why they're so easy to skip and why they're so powerful when they're not. If any of this resonates, type the number 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. It's a small signal, but small signals build into patterns. If you find one change today, like making a single pill organizer or texting a friend to meet for a walk, you've already shifted the odds in your favor. Keep the momentum simple, steady, and kind. Would you like me to craft part 3 next, where we explore the final lessons from that day and the lasting ways to turn these hard truths into a legacy of health? That morning began in the kind of quiet that feels almost too still, the sort of silence that settles not only over a room, but also inside a person. The sky was pale and colorless, and the light filtering through the thin curtains seemed hesitant, as though unsure whether it should disturb the peace within. Mr. Ann was already awake, seated in the old wooden chair by the window where he had spent countless mornings watching the world pass by. His teacup rested on the small table beside him, steam curling lazily upward and disappearing into the cool air, but he hadn't touched it. For years, this chair had been his starting point for the day. A place where he read the paper, made mental lists of small tasks, and reminded himself that there was still much he wanted to do. But on this morning, there was no paper unfolded, no list written, only a stillness that seemed to reach deep into his bones. The signs had been there for weeks. The slower walk, the moments of dizziness he brushed off as nothing, the way his appetite seemed to shrink with each passing day. He told no one. Partly because he didn't want to worry his children, and partly because he believed, as he always had, that small discomforts would pass if ignored long enough. He had lived through decades of hardship, illness, and recovery, and each time he had emerged on his feet. This, he thought, was no different. It was just age. And age, he believed, should be faced without complaint. Outside, life carried on as usual. The street below was wet from an early morning drizzle, the air thick with the smell of damp earth. A neighbor's radio played a faint song, and the sound of a bicycle bell rang once before, fading into the distance. These were the ordinary things that had always grounded him, proof that life kept moving, whether or not he was ready to move with it. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening, perhaps letting those familiar sounds sink deeper into memory. Hours passed in that same quiet rhythm, but when his neighbor noticed the curtains hadn't shifted all morning, a ripple of unease stirred. She walked over and knocked lightly at his door. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. The silence that followed was heavier than before. By the time help arrived and the door was opened, the truth was clear. The man who had lived a life of quiet dignity had left this world in the same way, without fanfare, without warning, and without anyone by his side. It would be easy to see this as a sad ending, and in some ways it was, but it was also a mirror, reflecting back the choices we make every day without realizing how much they shape our final moments. His story was not one of sudden tragedy, but of gradual, unnoticed decline, the kind that creeps in silently when we're too busy, too proud, or too afraid to acknowledge it. And in that reflection, there were lessons, if we were willing to see them. It is human nature to notice the dramatic, the obvious. A broken bone, a severe illness, a loud cry for help. These catch our attention. But the truth is that life often speaks to us in smaller, quieter ways. The tea left untouched on the table, the sudden need to sit down halfway through a walk, the slight hesitation before standing up. These moments are easy to dismiss, but together they form a language, one that tells us something is changing. Mr. Ain understood the value of perseverance, but perhaps what he missed was that perseverance is not the same as neglect. To push forward blindly without listening to what your body is trying to say is not strength. It is a gamble, and one whose cost can be irreversible. There was also the matter of independence, something he had cherished fiercely all his life. He did not want to be a burden, did not want to be fussed over or pitied. He believed his worth was tied to his ability to manage on his own. But independence, taken to the extreme, can become isolation. Without people close enough to notice the small changes, without conversations that allow someone to say, "You don't seem yourself lately," the warning signs remain invisible until it is too late. And when the final day comes, it may arrive without the comfort of a hand to hold or a voice to hear. His home, too, was a silent player in this story. It was familiar, filled with the marks of a life well lived. Photographs of family, books stacked on the floor, the faint smell of tea leaves embedded into the walls. But familiarity can sometimes blind us to danger. The rug in the hallway had been curling at the edges for months, a small hazard he barely noticed. The light bulb above the stairs was dim, making it harder to see in the early morning. These details seemed too minor to matter, but they were all pieces of an environment that could turn dangerous for someone whose reflexes had slowed, whose balance was no longer certain. And yet the most striking part of his story was not the stillness of his final morning, nor the unnoticed changes in his health, nor even the quietness of his passing. It was the truth that every one of us is writing our final chapter right now in the choices we make each day, the way we care for ourselves, the way we stay connected to others, the way we prepare our homes, our habits, our bodies for the future. These are not dramatic decisions. They are small, almost invisible, but together they shape the ending we will one day face. For those who hear this story, the message is not meant to inspire fear, but awareness. Awareness that health is not something we guard only in times of crisis, but in the ordinary moments we too easily overlook. Awareness that relationships are not just a source of joy, but also a safety net that can catch us when we stumble. Awareness that the place we call home must evolve as we do, shifting to meet our changing needs rather than holding us hostage to the past. If we take anything from Mr. An's final day, let it be the understanding that life rarely shouts its warnings. More often, it whispers. It is in the half-finished meal, the unopened letter, the walk that feels just a bit longer than it used to. It is in the decision to stay home rather than visit a friend, the choice to ignore a medical appointment because it's probably nothing. It is in the moments we convince ourselves that slowing down is just part of getting older without stopping to ask whether there's more to the story. And so perhaps the greatest act of courage is not to endure quietly, but to speak up, to tell a friend, a family member, a doctor, something feels different, to allow someone to see us in our vulnerability, not because we are weak, but because we are wise enough to know that strength is not the same as silence. Mr. An's final morning will never be repeated, but its meaning can live on in the lives of those who hear it. We can choose to pay closer attention to the subtle shifts in our own days, to check in on those we care about, not only when they are unwell, but when they seem perfectly fine. We can look at our surroundings with new eyes, making small changes that protect us before we need protecting. We can see independence not as the absence of help, but as the freedom to live on our own terms, supported, connected, and safe. If this story touched your heart or made you think differently about your own life, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories that can change lives, maybe even save one. And don't forget to share this with someone you care about, because sometimes one simple story can protect an entire lifetime. If you're hearing this now, pause for a moment. Think about the last week of your life. Was there a moment when you felt a little off, when you ignored a sign because it seemed too small to matter? Was there a person you thought about calling but didn't? Was there something in your home you meant to fix but decided could wait? Those moments are your whispers. Listen to them. Act on them. Not tomorrow. Today. Because the truth is, none of us know which morning will be our last, but we all have the chance right now to shape how that morning will look, and whether it will be met with peace, preparedness, and the quiet knowledge that we did not leave life's most important choices for later.